Namaskar. Hello, friends. Accept the tremendous variety in creation as equal. We human beings seem to want others to be like us, neither better than us nor worse than us. By nature, we find it difficult to accept that each individual can be different. That is the reason we are jealous of someone who is better than us. That is the reason we try to pull somebody down when he seems to be climbing out of the basket. That is the crab mentality. We humans may have inherited some tendencies from our animal ancestors. On the other side of that coin of unwillingness to accept a different person is looking down upon another person who seems to be unable to do such a simple thing. A spiritually inclined person is able to accept all kinds of beings as creations of God for a certain specific purpose of His for each being. He therefore neither hates anyone nor envies anyone. He is even-minded and even-handed to one and all. Acceptance, not a post-event intellectual exercise. Acceptance is one of the noblest spiritual concepts. However, it should not be understood in a commonsensical way, that is, a kind of a compromise or a feeling of resignation after an event has already happened contrary to our expectation or has fallen short of our expectation. That will mean only an intellectual exercise in convincing our mind that whatever has happened is okay and that heavens haven't fallen and that things may be better sometime in future, etc. As a normal worldly person, our mind acts like a filter. It has only small openings that allow acceptance of only certain things and events that can pass through that filtering criteria, namely desires, likes and dislikes, past experiences, etc., of our conditioned mind. Thus, our mind typically rejects or blocks many things that keep lying on its surface, like tea leaves on a tea filter. After first blocking a thing, if we try to accept it, it is like forcing the tea leaves through the filter, which cannot happen. True acceptance in a spiritual sense is the right frame of mind where we do not keep any particular expectation at all in the first place. We have an absolutely open mind with a true attitude that anything may happen and that it would not matter to me any which way. In other words, there is no filter at all. Our consciousness is like a pipe open at both ends. Experiences keep coming in from one end and going out from the other end. And just to make even surer, let the length of the pipe be as short as possible. Otherwise, the experience may remain in the pipe for too long. Of course, let me hasten to add that I don't mean we should not analyze the outcome and the why of it. To the extent we can figure out some very obvious mistakes, it helps. Sometimes the analysis of the past may train us to be more careful, etc. So we may do it, but we should be done with it as quickly as possible rather than crying too much over spilt milk. You cannot in any case go back into the past and change the result as it has already happened today. In a spiritual sense, it is much better to accept a given situation as it has come into existence and move on in life. It is much more practical to do your best in every given situation. That is, remain firmly in present and leave the outcome to the destiny which is another name for the concept of the bigger picture. Mere parroting of mantras is not good enough. Mantras are supposed to be powerful, but what is that power supposed to achieve for us? And how should a mantra be used to get the benefit of it? From a spiritual perspective, any spiritual practice, including recitation of a mantra, should help bring about a change in our mind, a change in our attitude. So, simply parroting a mantra when the mind is engrossed in the thoughts of office work or family problems would be of no use. It should help us turn our mind away from the world towards pursuit of spirit. So, recitation of a mantra should help engage our mind in spiritual thought rather than worldly thoughts. It follows that we should be conscious of the meaning and background of a mantra while reciting it and link it to spiritual thoughts. Revered Santa Shri Dnyaneshwar, while driving home the importance of using a mantra properly, gives the metaphor of gold ornaments. One should know how to wear them. There is no point in simply wrapping them up in a piece of cloth and hanging them from one's neck. Or an infant may have food close at his hand, but it does not know how to eat it, and hence it may starve. Likewise, one must know how to use a mantra, otherwise it cannot benefit him. Shri Dnyaneshwar, in his commentary on Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 17, verses 23 to 27, beautifully explains the deeper meaning and significance of the Mahamantra Om Tat Sat and how it should be used. He says, the three words in this Mahamantra should be used at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end of an action. These three words are names of Brahman itself. The word Om should be employed before beginning any action by first concentrating on it and then pronouncing it. If this procedure is followed, Om is like a powerful companion accompanying you in a forest. The word Tat should be used in the middle of the action by pronouncing it and offering all the fruits of the action to Brahman and telling oneself that none of the fruits is for me. Thus the karma was started by pronouncing Om, and its fruit was surrendered to Brahman by pronouncing Tat. But the task is still not spiritually complete, because the duality between the karma and Brahman still remains. Because one says karma is offered to Brahman. And so long as duality exists, the fear of samsara does not disappear. The word Sat is used to remove that duality also. The word Sat manages to get rid of any faults and lacunas in the karma performed. Like any kind of river after merger with ocean cannot be distinguished from another. Thus these three words of the Mahavakya, Om Tat Sat, take the seeker to that place where the Parabrahman, that is the supreme singular principle underlying the physical creation, is. Do not bother about the world. One of the most fundamental things to be kept in mind by a spiritual seeker is that his pursuit is completely his own individual affair. It has nothing to do with any other individual. So there is no question of thinking about the whole world. Let me elaborate. Take one of the fundamental concepts in the spiritual pursuit, namely, shun worldly desires. There is no point in the seeker asking, oh, what will happen if everyone shuns desires? How will the world run? I say, leave the world to the Creator. He knows why He has created the world and how its affairs should be conducted. The seeker should simply pursue what he believes in without worrying about others, much less the whole world. And remember, everybody will simply not give up all the desires. A practical way of truly getting away from the world. Whatever we may do and however hard we may try, our life will always have a mix of both pleasures and pains. Yes, the proportion of the two may vary from one person to another, but a very rare person, if at all, can claim to have only pain or only pleasure all the time in his or her life. Thus, the key to a happy life is not in having only pleasures, but in accepting the reality that both pains and pleasures are inevitable. The purpose of taking to a spiritual path is to get away from the worldly life as much as and whenever possible, and instead contemplate on what may be beyond the physical world. That enables us to have a more healthy outlook towards life, whereby we learn to be less and less judgmental about the events in our life. We are then able to accept pain more easily. Towards this objective, we engage in religious or spiritual rituals like performing puja, doing a jap, or reading a stotra, or some scripture, or meditating, etc. That helps us get our mind away from our usual worldly concerns and worries, at least during that activity. However, more often than not, we may find ourselves reciting the mantra or jap only subconsciously, and the conscious mind engaged in its usual game of ceaselessly churning out thought after thought. This defeats the purpose behind the act of reciting the mantra. Here is something you can try that can help you remain focused on the recitation and prevent your mind from straying into worldly thoughts. Start with a deep inhalation and focus on it, avoiding any thoughts. Then start exhaling as slowly as possible while simultaneously reciting the mantra, arti or jap in your mind. Repeat this cycle, making sure that you definitely focus your conscious mind whenever you are inhaling. You will have to split the mantra, jap or arti lines into suitable parts so that each part occupies one exhalation. Remember not to recite any part of the jap during inhalation. Conscious inhalation is more like a pause that prevents your mind from unknowingly straying into a chain of thoughts. The idea is to make the activity appear to our mind as discontinuous cycles of action. The reason is that when our mind finds an activity to be completely repetitive without conscious breaks, it finds it easy to hand over that task to our subconscious mind so that the conscious mind is free to engage in its trips. The conscious pause without any activity or thought makes it a discontinuous process, and hence the mind cannot hand it over to the subconscious. A similar technique can be used while reading the scripture too. The crux lies in having a conscious pause while inhaling. If you want, you can try this even at work. Take a pause of maybe just a couple of minutes at a logical break in your work. Get up and walk a few paces while focusing on breathing. Then get back to work again. Of course, you may have to decide if your organization culture, your boss, do not take objection to this practice of yours. I will stop here today. We'll see you the next time. Until then, take care. Bye.